What's going on, Cave Crew? It's Patrick, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. I'm back. So today, though, I'm doing Digimon because Digimon. So, last week, the 22nd, if I do the numbers right, on the 22nd, we had a Digimon tournament, and, well, I won. So we're going to show you the deck list that won, and we're going to talk about it. So I guess let's just dive right in. Alright, so before we dive in, if you didn't read the name, the title of this video. I was playing purple memory control, which is really annoying. Basically what this deck's whole function is to keep memory on my, I don't care if my opponent has memory, it's to make sure that I'm always maximizing the amount of memory I have at the beginning of each turn, and the amount of memory I can gain to mitigate my opponent's turns, basically to end their turn on my terms and not on theirs, because I'm an awful person. So we're gonna dive right in, and we're gonna talk about it. Starting off with the eggs, because they're the babies. We're running 4 copies of Demi-Mera and 1 copy of Zhao. Demi-Mera is the best purple egg in my opinion. Being able to draw a card and then trash a card is really good. Zhaomon is really good in later game. If you get unfortunate, it's the top egg, it stinks, but giving retaliation to something can be really big. Giving retaliation to a blocker and your opponent not keeping track of this thing can be really huge. It doesn't come up often, but it can come up. Next up is the the level 3s, the rookies. We have 4 copies of Tsukaimon. Tsukaimon is a inherited on deletion gain of memory. So the reason I'm running this at 4 is because I typically have to get up to Arukenimon and Mummymon, and this just gives me a free way to get more memory. It makes playing MaloMyotismon a 1-drop instead of a 3-drop or a 5-drop. It helps just mitigate those costs. I also run 4 copies of Gabumon. This Gabumon trigger draw 2 when it's on deletion. So if I can't get the Tsukaimon, it just gives me a good inherited effect of drawing 2 cards and then trashing 1. It's just really solid. Then we've got 4 copies of Candlemon. Candlemon I'm running because it's a 2-drop. It's a 0 evolution, which is nice, but it's a 2-drop vanilla, so I can choke my opponent going second and keep them at low memory for relatively free, and that comes up pretty big. And then finally 2 copies of Gazimon. I love Gazimon. Being able to stop my opponent from gaining memory, except with Tamer effects, is really big. It works really well against blue. It's just a solid card. Next up is the champions. The champion lineup is a little weird, but we're going to have some fun with it. So we're running 4 copies of Vilemon, and then 2 copies of the Devimon blocker. Now, you could change this to 3 and 3 or 4 and 2 either way. It's up to you. Basically, I'm running this because I don't have any more of this at the moment. But this Vilemon is, because it's 6,000, it actually makes it difficult to deal with for certain yellow decks. Which is why I decided to run it at 4, and then the 5,000, vanilla, the 5,000 blocker is just nice. So we've got 6 copies of blockers. You abuse them in this strategy. Rounding up the champions, we're running 2 copies of Musiamon and 1 copy of the Retaliation Devimon. Musiamon has jamming, so it helps me against like Shine Greymon, because I don't care how big their guys are. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, and this makes it no, it doesn't matter. And then the Retaliation Devimon is just to help me deal with problems. So if I'm playing against something like, let's say like Imperial Eldramon or Omnimon, I can just kill it. Just straight up kill it, and it's great. You could make the argument to run 3 of the Retaliation Devimon or 3 of this. I just see a lot of Shine Greymon and big bodies, so Musiamon comes up more locally for me, but you could make the argument for either or you could even put in a Meramon and 2 of this or whatever. It's up to you. Next up is the Ultimates. So, we're running 3 copies of Arukenimon, and we are running 3 copies of Mummymon. So, a lot of ratios run 4 and 2 or 4 and 2. I like 3 and 3. Because people are going to have to deal with MaloMyotismon pretty early. This forces my opponent into a position where I'm able to play either way, and I will consistently see either one in a pretty decent fashion, so it actually helps me maintain my board presence and my game state. But they both have the same effect, just different locations. So they both allow you to play MaloMyotismon for 3 memory when attacking, and then it deletes them. But Arukenimon is from hand and Mummymon is from trash, which makes, well, sense. And because it gets deleted, it triggers MaloMyotismon's effect because it's after it's summoned, which is really good. And then rounding out the ultimates, we're running 1 copy of Chimeramon. Chimeramon is just really good. All right, now into the Megas. So for the Megas, we are running 8. We are running 4 copies of MaloMyotismon, the big boss body boy of the deck. It's got piercing, which is really big. It's 12,000 DP. And on all turns, when another Digimon is deleted, gain a memory. This card will help you steal turns from your opponent and make it really fun for you and really not fun for them. The other Mega, the Megas, rounding up the Megas, is 4 copies of my personal favorite Digimon, Piedmon. Piedmon is a Retaliator, and then on play you can play 2 level 4 or lower purple Digimon from your trash without paying their memory costs. But their on-play effects don't work. So, it's really solid. It's just a good card. Being able to do that, being able to recur resources as quickly as it does, and being a 12-drop because of how we're playing the deck, we don't care. We can force our opponent's hand pretty early and pretty often. So Piedmon, amazing. Next up, 2 copies of Omnimon Zwart. We are running Zwart. Zwart's, when digivolving, trashing the top 3 of your deck, and then you can play a black, 2 black or play up to 2 black and or purple Digimon cards with play costs of 8 or less from your trash without paying their memory costs. Can be really good because of things like Chimeramon. So you can play this, bring back Chimeramon and something else while you have a Malo out, because you'll always want to put this over a Piedmon if you can. So you'll put this over, you'll pull this out in a blocker. You'll delete the blocker to delete one of their Digimon after digivolving into this, and then you'll gain 2 memory. So for digivolving into this, it becomes a 4 because of things like Chimeramon that you can just loop in that comes out clutch. That does it for the Digimon lineup. Next is going to be the Tamers. For the Tamers, we're running 2 Mat. Mat is important in this deck because it puts us at a guaranteed 3 every turn, maximizing the amount of memory that we have, which is incredibly important in this strategy. It also lets us recur a purple Digimon or a purple option card from our trash to our hand. Mat is so helpful in this deck. If you've watched some of our live games, you've seen that I play this without having anything in the trash because the memory is more important to me. Then we've got 2 copies of Ty and Mat. Ty and Mat is good for twofold. One, if your opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon to play gain 2 memory, that's always nice. I will deal with the level 6s when I have to, but until I have to, I'll take the free extra memory off of it. If you have this and this in play and they have a level 6 or higher, you have 5 memory guaranteed at the start of every turn, which is nice. The other thing is with Omnimon, if you have an Omnimon in play, they get a security attack +1. If you have 2 of these out, it gets security attack +2. It's just big, it's nice. And rounding out the Tamers, we're running 2 Takumi Aiba. Takumi, 1, stops Rookie Rush because they lose memory, which is nice. But that's not the reason it's here. It's here for extra draw power for digivolving. Because we don't digivolve up to Megas and we don't build large chains like that because of how the deck functions, Takumi actually allows us to get the draw power that we would otherwise, that we don't have because of how our strategy inherently works. So we run 2 Takumi. And last but not least are our options. We only run 4. It's going to be 2 copies of Hell's Gate and 2 copies of Trump Sword. Hell's Gate is to deal with big threats. It puts your opponent in a position where they, if they see that they hit it in security, they have to play a game differently, and that's huge. It's also only a 5-drop if you have Malo on field, which is often, and if you have Mat and Ty and Mat. At the start of your turn, if you're going to be able to use this, you're starting at 5 memory, so at 0, you put you to 0, but you've deleted the problem and you can still attack, which is nice. And then the Trump Swords is just to delete it on suspended Digimon. It's really good as a security effect. it's just a really good card. It's probably the best purple option. And that is going to do it for Memory Control Purple. My rounds were pretty good. I played, in round 1, I played against Untitled. That deck is one of the hardest matchups for this deck, but Hell's Gate came in clutch, and I was able to keep him off stuff because he wasn't able to get into rookies, which happens. In round 2, I played against Shine Greymon, another deck that can be a real problem for this deck, but MaloMyotismon and Early Aggression kind of helped me seal that game. And then in round 3, I had a draw with Green OTK. It was a really close game. It was a good game, but I was able to pull a draw out of that one strictly because of it. It was 3 rounds, so it put me in first place because of points and how things worked out. But overall, it was a really good tournament. I hope to see you guys at them. All the information is right here. Hold on, I'll put it up in the camera for you. Boom. Come on in. It's every other Sunday, so if the 22nd was our last one, then that means that in September, on the 5th, we're going to have another one. So if you got some Digimon cravings, come on in and play a hand with us. We look forward to seeing you. And until next time, Cave Crew, we'll see you around.